This question of boredom often comes up. And for most people, when they've had an insight, a spiritual understanding, that everything comes with the interconnected opposite. Pleasure comes with pain, happiness comes with unhappiness. There is usually not much to do. So, as a result, boredom sets in. But this boredom can be your gateway to a deeper understanding. You see, let's understand why the boredom comes up in the first place. So, from the beginning, our default conditioning has been that we must be active, we must do something. And in this overactivity, sometimes we become so anxious, we become so stressed, so tired, so depleted, that there is not enough energy left to just be, to simply sit and observe things around, to allow the presence to manifest and for the beauty to unfold. So, we are told that we must keep ourselves occupied. That is our default conditioning from the very beginning. But now what happens? All of a sudden there is a crack in the structure of the personality, which in my concept is spiritual awakening. This personality, which is formed from past knowledge is what we have acquired externally through society, through conditioning, our parents, schooling, friend circle, our associations, the region where we were born, the cultural values, everything contributes to this conditioning. And for most people, the overemphasis is there on doing something, because we identify our worth with doing something. So, this idea of just being initially seems absurd, laziness, it is dismissed as, one being just avoiding. But it is not avoidance. When the understanding happens, usually all these ideas begin to crack, because you understand that whatever you acquire in the external world is limited and it comes with the opposite. So, initially there is this tendency to just not do anything, and in this non-doing there is boredom. But the boredom is haunting. Boredom is an uncomfortable feeling, and why it is uncomfortable is because we have been told that if we don't do much, we are not enough. So, you see, our idea of self-worth, we believe that there is a self and that self has an inherent worth. And that worth can be expanded through more acquisitions, through more doings. The more we do, the more we attain, accumulate, the bigger the worth. So, this self is a very unstable entity. And the masters say that when we realize that this self is a piece of fiction, it is a conceptual thought, it comes and goes. The personality comes and goes, it changes. Then, of course, comes the boredom. And that boredom comes up because now there is nothing to do. And usually I get a lot of queries about this. I do not know what to do. I've had something, I've felt something, call it a spiritual awakening or an insight, whatever you want to call it. And now I feel that I'm wasting my life. I feel that I could have, should have done something much better with my life. I should have, worked more harder and attained something, or, I can still, pursue some of the goals I had earlier. So I continue on this, the mind continues on this path, but the mind is divided right now. It is divided into two parts. One part says that I must do something to prove myself, and there is another part which says that I am perfectly fine without doing anything. So these two forces are pulling apart, which is causing stress, dissonance. What if we totally attend to this confusion rather than trying to solve it, rather than trying to find the root of it, rather than perceiving it as a problem, perceiving boredom as a problem, we just completely embrace it? Then what? Now, for most of us, the question will be, but I have to make a living, but I have to earn money. And yes, that is true. All those things have to be done. If you will not pay the electricity bill, the electricity will be cut off. That will happen. But you see, you will not try to escape your boredom, because you will know that staying put with your boredom, with that feeling, that unease, that restlessness, is your gateway to a deeper understanding. It is beyond that boredom that there is the recognition of essence, our most natural state. Till we are experiencing the unease in the boredom, we are divided, as I said, between two thoughts which are running in two different directions. I must do, but it is futile to do anything. I must, I should, but it's useless. And then we go to different people, we seek advice, and they usually, people who are still immersed in the material world will advise us, no, do this or do that, otherwise you lose out on this, you lose out on that opportunity. What are you doing with your life? This is dangerous. So basically, they are projecting their own conditioning onto the one who's confused. But what happens if we just go beyond that? If we embrace the boredom and embrace the fear, embrace this thinking mind and say that, okay, it is what it is. I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to fill it just to feel better. I will stay in that unpleasantness and see where it leads me. And usually the result is, I'm sure some of you may have experienced it, that when there is absolutely nothing to do, there is joy, there is peace. So that is why I motivate the world to embrace their boringness, to embrace boredom. It is one of the most potent tools to spiritual awakening. Because we have always been told to avoid it. Why? Because it feels uncomfortable. And what have we done all our lives? We have tried to avoid the uncomfortable. But what happens when we embrace the discomfort? You see, the problem is not with the being. The being is unaffected. The being is the spaciousness where everything is manifesting. So being by its nature remains untouched. It is pure consciousness. It is the limited identified entity which says, I must and I must not, which says that boredom is scary, that I must do something about it, which perceives boringness as a problem. The problem is created by the mind. Which mind? The split mind that is divided into two parts. And this mind is so limited, it is so weak that it cannot do anything about this situation. These two forces are pulling it apart. One force says, as I'll again repeat, one force says that I must do something, otherwise I'm worthless. The other force says, what's the point? I don't know the purpose. I don't know why I'm here in this world. I don't know where am I going to go next. Nothing is in my control. Why should I even do anything? So which thought is right? I will say what Nisargadatta Maharaj said. None of these thoughts are true. But this is not an intellectual knowledge, it is the knowledge of the heart. And the gateway to heart is through this confusion, this boredom, that I believe is one of the last phases of spiritual awakening or spiritual understanding, which the seeker goes through. You see, it is all tied up to the idea of doership. I must do. And nobody tells us that our worth is not defined by doing, because every doing is limited. Our worth is in being. The day we understand that being is limitless, that being remains unaffected, when the recognition of being happens, one does not need to prove anything to this world, to the society. One can be just as they are and remain content. Now, it is not to say that one will be completely spared from the ups and downs of life. No, that is the flow of life. But with the recognition of being, it will be known that when the ocean of beingness is present, the ups and downs have only one place where it merges, and that is the ocean of beingness itself. So one does not get caught up in the highs, and one does not get depressed with the lows. And boredom is a part of the low. So one does not get caught up with the boredom, but embraces the boredom to see what it is. One does not try to fill it with activities and objects. And that is true freedom. It is the understanding, the acceptance of the human mechanism. And human mechanism is not a stable entity. Human mechanism is designed to experience highs, lows, emotional roller coasters, activity, reactivity, everything. And it all has its opposites. The good has its opposite. It is the acceptance of the opposites that brings about a place of understanding. So excitement and boredom are actually one and the same thing. They are arising in consciousness, they are made up of consciousness. And the recognition of that consciousness is true freedom. So use boredom as a gateway to that.